Welcome to the Coach's Edge podcast as we discuss 3-on-3 and how that can be applied into summer basketball camps, in season, off season workouts, open gyms. And I want to share with you some of the different variations that we've used over time and other ones that you can continue to use. Some that I really like, some I'm probably going to try to use a little bit more, especially as when we head into our July of camps and then fall training before the season hits. Also, quick reflection on this past week. This was week 4 of our summer camp tour for 2024, and some of the overarching thoughts after looking back on another great week of basketball camp. So, week 4 finished. Week 5 of the summer is the 4th of July week. We take that one off, and then 5 more weeks of basketball camps going through really that first slash second week of August. So before we get into the 3-on-3, last Saturday I was in Mesik, Michigan. I'm actually wearing the T-shirt if you're watching on YouTube, and one of the coolest experiences I've had, small town, northern Michigan, and they really made an event out of bringing me up for a day of basketball camp. You could tell it was really a big deal for the coaches and for the kids. Small area. I mean, this isn't a populated city. It's not like there's a lot of basketball training or anything like that in that area. And so they brought me in, they provided breakfast for all the kids. They provided lunch for all the kids. They combined, they had t-shirts for every player and coach. It has Mesik, it has the logo of the school, but then it says Kramer Camp. And it was really a combination of the school's camp and my camp into one. And listen, every place that I go for these private camps is special. They're asking me to come in. But man, that was one of the most I don't know if rewarding is the right word, but it was just one of the most special experiences I've had running basketball camps over 10 plus years, and how welcomed I felt, how excited everyone was for the day. And as you can mention, those camps were great. It was a great day of basketball, and the turnout for a school that has a extremely small enrollment was tremendous. I mean, there's probably 60 kids that we worked with. That's a large percent of the kids in the entire school system that were at that basketball camp. So that was really, really cool. Very, very grateful. Um, Other thing I wanted to touch on before we get into our 3-on-3 actions, this past week, I was in 3 different locations in Michigan: Marlette, Bad Axe, and Yale. And before one of our Yale camps, my assistant coach, Zach York, who plays at Grace Christian in Grand Rapids, he was looking, there was, 40 kids in the gym. That was what they capped it at. So the camp was sold out. And he said, wow, I think this is going to be a great day, and just full group of kids who were ready to get after it. And, it was another point of reflection for me where just feeling very blessed and very fortunate to have the job that I do. And for the most part, I go to these different schools where I don't know, I know the coach because they're asking me to come in, and these kids just show up, and it's a feeling of purpose. I feel like God has, given me an opportunity to do some things to make a difference in other people's lives. And a lot of the things that have happened have been very much out of my control as far as being, blessed enough to do this for a living. With the amount of kids that we get to work with and all these different locations is crazy. There's not a lot of basketball trainers, I think, that maybe run their business the way that I run it. Because there's a lot of right ways. There's more than one right way to do it. I think probably looking back, maybe the way that I do it is maybe a little more challenging or unique, because it involves so much travel and working with so many kids and areas that I'm not really in. I go, I say I blow in, blow up, and blow out. And so that's pretty crazy. So it was very cool. And another great week of basketball camps. But as we talk about how we're able to perform different instruction, one of the things that we've changed over my years of running basketball camps is skill development is always the focus, and teaching the why, not just the how, right? Teaching the why. So you get into the where on the court you would do it, when you would do it, the background behind shooting or finishing or defense or cutting, so many different things. And that's always been a big part, and it still is a big part of what we do. But we used to just do that for the entire time that I was running a clinic or a camp. And now we do more playing, just to give kids the chance to try out what they've been working on. And also, it's depending on the group that you're working with. Some kids actually aren't playing as much as you might think. Some kids are playing too much. So it depends on the group. You might be with a group that plays a lot of AAU. They probably just need more teaching and instruction. They're getting a ton of gameplay in already. So they don't maybe need as much of that, but they want to refine their skills, and that's why they're there. But then you get other kids who don't play as much basketball at all, so they really need all of it, right? You need to teach them the game, but if they're not playing a lot of basketball throughout the course of the year, and if say you're in seventh grade and you play 12 junior high basketball games and that's it, that's not a ton of game experience. And in a place like Michigan, they might have 2 months as the winter basketball season. So they're not really playing basketball that much. So you got to give them those game situation opportunities, which brings me into 3-on-3. And so I have some notes here, but we try to work on at many of our camps 2 and 3 player actions, right? And that could transition into an individual move, an individual finish, but doing drills that involve other people because the game involves other people, right? So how are you able to take some of the things we work on from a skill development standpoint and apply it into game situations? 3-on-3 is a great way to do that. You've heard our podcast on the FIBA 3-on-3 over the years, a lot of stuff on that. But what are some variations that you can use at a camp, in a practice, and a workout when it comes to implementing 3-on-3 and trying to get some of that transfer of some of the points of emphasis with your workout? You could do FIBA 3-on-3, which is, there's a shot clock. There's no checking on the change of possession if a made basket. And there's a few more rules that can be a little complex, especially for our younger players, and especially if you're brand new to any of this much more fast-paced, 3-on-3 on steroids would be like FIBA 3-on-3. But we do some. We'll do a no check after a make, right? So everything else can be pretty traditional 3-on-3. But hey, if a team makes a shot, just clear it behind the 3-point line, keep playing. That's an easy one to do. Kids, for the most part, will figure that out. If we have a smaller group, working on a half court to full court is a great option. So like yesterday at a camp, we did a dribble drive 3-on-3. So there was a small advantage featuring a drive and then a decision making on read and help in the gap and then the weak side defensive location. And so that was a 3-on-3 half court. And then we went down the other way into full court. So that would be a way where you could get 3-on-3. You have a specific point emphasis and there's some transition involved. Another way to do 3-on-3 would be a defensive cutthroat, right? You have multiple teams coming in on offense. You have one team. So say you have four 3-on-3 teams. There's 3 teams on offense. There's 1 team on defense, and that defensive team has to get 5 stops or 5 stops in a row or 3 stops in a row until they go out. So the point emphasis is 3-on-3 defensive focus. That's a great one to do. We did a lot of 5-on-5 and stuff like that in college. An action-based 3-on-3 is a great one. You can't create a shot. You can't get a point for your team until you implement one of the actions we worked on. Handoff, ball screen, screen away, flare screen, a paint touch into a kick, a post touch. Like, what's something that you just emphasized? We want to focus on that. And maybe it's as simple as, hey, everybody's got to touch the basketball before a shot goes up. I like a specific action because I used to do, hey, everybody needs to touch the basketball before a shot goes up, and they will just stand there, not do any actions, give each other the ball, and then they'll go back to playing how they want. So an action involves multiple touches, and it reflects what we're trying to create in the game, and it gives us an opportunity to create a mismatch and actually score, which is that transfer that we're looking for anyway. So the action-based 3-on-3, that's probably my favorite. You can always go make it, take it. Like we talked about, the defensive focus of getting stops, offensive focus, hey, you score, right? Say you have 4 teams playing 3-on-3 or 3 teams playing 3-on-3, team on the baseline, team on offense, team on defense, offensive team scores, defense goes out, new team comes in on defense. You have to get a stop in order to get the ball, right? So there's that, like, you don't just hey, you score, I score, you score, I score, right? And sometimes it's not that competitive. I don't get the ball unless I score, unless I get a stop, right? And if I score, I want to keep that ball as long as possible. So I'm putting a large point of emphasis on getting good shots. And if you have more than two teams going on the same basket, even if it's a team out, a team on defense, a team on offense, you want to play the game, right? So if you miss, you're not just on defense, you got to go out and then wait to rotate back in to play defense again to get the chance to go back on offense. That's another great way to implement multiple teams, a lot of competition, and make it take it being a point of emphasis. So that's a big one with 3-on-3. If we have smaller groups, I like the transition piece. I like going like a half court, transitioning to a full court, small advantage, something like that as a point of emphasis for the action that we want to see in the half court, and then kind of let them play and see if they can work on the transition piece and get a quick early shot before the defensive sets on the other side. Depending on how many kids you have at a camp, it can be a little difficult to do that, but a smaller group, you can get it done. And couple point emphasis when you're playing 3-on-3, you can say, hey, it's an extra point if you get a paint shot, a paint basket. It's an extra point if it's a catch and shoot 3, right? It's an extra point if it's after an offensive rebound, right? If you commit a turnover, it's -1, right? If you get a live ball steal, it's +1 for your team, right? There's a lot of different ways where you can just, what's my point of emphasis? What's something we're trying to work on? Give them points for that on top of, hey, you just made a basket. That's a great way to do it. So quick hitter episode. I hope you think about some of these things. We'll put more resources for 5-on-5 options and 3-on-3 options into the Coach's Edge membership. We got a new one, a Coach Tro's 5 favorite team practice defensive drills that we just put up onto coachesedge.coach. The membership. It's a cool thing about Coach's Edge. I mean, every month we're putting in a new video, a new resource, at least one every single month. And Coach Tro's done a lot of hard work with taking some of his practice drills that you can see how this actually looks, and then combining that with his PowerPoint and, giving you a real education as far as how you can have more effective, more efficient practices. That's the cool thing about Coach's Edge. I mean, we just have multiple coaches that contribute, and then we put it onto the site, we email it out, and then even having some of the conversations with our members about, what they learn, takeaways, and then we all get better, and then that even comes back into creating more content and resources for our coaches based on the things we're learning from our members, which is tremendous as well. So check out coachesedge.coach if you want to continue to improve this summer. Thank you for listening to the Coach's Edge podcast. Thanks for watching on YouTube. I hope some of these 3-on-3s, comment if you're if you're watching on YouTube, what's some 3-on-3 variations that you like? There's a ton of them that are great. We just mentioned, 5, but what are some variations of 3-on-3 that you found to be successful to really get some of that skill acquisition to transfer into game situations? Very curious to see how what you do with your team and how we can all get better. Thanks for listening to Coach's Edge. Get after it today.